one of the dimensions of emotional intelligence is self-regulation. And it means that you don't cry. You don't cry at work. You are able to hold your emotions in, and then that internal tears don't come out. I'll talk about two situations. One where I felt like crying and I was able to hold my composure until I got home. And another one where I just cried right there at work, right in the office. One of the things that we talk about in our book, The Journey of Women Leaders, which is a book that we wrote, we being 4 women, 2 baby boomers, and 2 millennials. I think the millennials/Gen X. And we wrote about things that women face in our career. And one of the items that we talked about was crying at work. Well, one of the dimensions of emotional intelligence is self-regulation. And I translated it for years. It means that you don't cry. You don't cry at work. You stay composed. You are able to hold your emotions in, and then that internal tears don't come out. Well, I've had mixed results in that. And I'll talk about 2 situations. One where I felt like crying and I was able to hold my composure until I got home. And another one where I just cried right there at work, right in the office. Well, in kind of judging those 2 situations, I think that I did the right thing by not crying. I did the right thing by crying. Let's talk about where I didn't cry. I was in an executive staff meeting and basically disrespected in front of the whole executive staff. Disrespected by a project that wasn't going well. And it was the migration from one service provider to another, which as an IT executive, every executive knows that this is fraught with terror to do this. And it wasn't going very well. And I was the subject of a lot of scorn, a lot of frustration, and a lot of everything. Well-deserved, I might add. But I was doing my best to try to manage the bumps and get through the bumps that were expected and be accountable for that. And when you're accountable, that means that you take the bullets. And I stood in front of the organization and I just took the bullets. I took it, took a shot, took it. And the deputy director of the organization said to me in an executive meeting, he started it with all due respect. Now, whenever anybody starts something with all due respect, you're about to get disrespected. Trust and believe. And that's what happened. So with all due respect, it was basically, how could you be so stupid and not know that this was going to happen? And, you're accountable for this and blah, 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 and everything. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to get through this, except to say, yes, sir, I'll take care of it. And so I had a long commute home, and it was at the end of the day, so I just left for the day. And in Washington, D.C., that D.C. traffic is really bad. So I usually used the commutes to catch up with my phone calls, return calls. But in this case, I called my husband, and by the time I got to the car, I was just upset. I said, it was just terrible. It's awful. I'll tell you about it when I get home. I don't want to talk about it. So I managed to hold my composure. I didn't call anybody. I just listened to music. I got into the garage. I pulled the garage, put the garage door down. I got out the car and I could hear the familiar sound of the martini shaker. Shh, 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 shh. I could hear it through the garage door. Shh, 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 shh. And I walked in the door and I stood there and I saw my martini, my cosmopolitan being poured. Shh. And then I started crying. I just started crying. And I told my husband everything that happened and how hurt I was and how disrespected I was. And I didn't know what to say and what to do. And I started crying. And I knew that I could not cry in front of these men. They were all men in the meeting. This was a law enforcement organization. I couldn't cry. And I would be viewed as weak. And I would never get over it. So I cried for my husband. I got it all out. ugly cry. Cry. It was a 2 martini cry. But I got myself together and I decided what I needed to do, which was the opposite of what I wanted to do. Instead of hiding and not avoiding those tears, I decided to go straight into the lion stand, to go to each field division and stand in front of them and take bullets. And I did. I visited every major field division and listened to their complaints about the transition to the new service provider. I noted them. I tried to address many of them before I even left. Because this was a tour. I went from one division to another division, Chicago, Miami, San Antonio, I think was Dallas, Seattle. I think that's what I did. And took bullets. Took the bullets. I solved some of them before I got back to Washington, D.C. And others, I set up action plans to address them. And I didn't realize it until later that when I did that I had gained respect from the field, from the people in the field. I stood there. I remember one occasion I stood there and I just let them go. I said, "Go at me," and they said, "For real?" I said, "For real," and they just went at me. And I remember ending it. I went, wiped my chin, and I said, "That's all you got? That's all you got?" And they laughed. But it was a great experience. It helped communicate to my customer base that I was accountable, and it helped establish a partnership where they communicated to me what was wrong and they communicated to me what was right. And I fought through those tears, but I turned the tears into action. That was a good story.
If this episode sparked something for you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to the Next Level Paycheck and join Linda Cureton every week to break the $80,000 ceiling with faith, strategy, and unstoppable confidence.